Hello, everyone. It's been a while. I think my last video was a Halloween episode, or like I talked about what I watched in October. It's been several months, so sorry about that. Today's video is on a movie that I have been kind of hyper fixating on. If you know me in real life, you know how much I love Batman, and obviously you're reading the title, so you know this is a review on the new Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. This video is going to be structured a little bit differently from my past reviews. I'm going to go over some non-spoilery things that I really liked. Essentially, this video is just like an info dump that's also going to involve like my thoughts on this new movie, some of my thoughts on like the older movies. I have very strong opinions and feelings around the character of Batman. That's why this video is going to be a little bit different, because I didn't want to just like briefly touch on it. Like, I really want to like get how I'm feeling out of my head and, I don't know, onto the internet, I guess. That being said, full disclaimer, I am not like the biggest Batman fan in the entire world. So if you don't agree with my opinions or my takes on this new movie, I want to say keep them to yourself, but you know, this is a free platform for everybody to share their opinions. That's why I'm doing it. So if you want to tell me your thoughts on like my takes, just please be nice. Like, it costs nothing to be kind. And Batman is a character that has been around for decades, and everyone is allowed to love him any way that they want to, in any version or representation. That being said, let's just kind of like jump in. I do kind of want to touch on a little bit on like my opinions on the previous movies up until current. The Tim Burton films are some of my favorites. Batman Returns is like my all-time favorite Batman movie. Michael Keaton still is probably my favorite portrayal of Batman ever, but I can recognize that it's more so from like nostalgia. And I do think that he was the best representation of like the books version of Batman for like the 80s and 90s. So he was just perfect for the time he came out. And then the Dark Knight trilogy, I really loved Batman Begins. I thought the portrayal of Scarecrow was like so cool. I would love to see him within the vision of Matt Reeves for like a future movie, honestly. I think it kind of goes without saying that like Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker was like a masterpiece. Jack Nicholson is still my favorite live action, but Heath did give him a run for his money. I think he was more like a realistic modern day unhinged Joker. The Dark Knight, obviously like probably the best one out of the three, and then I really did not like Dark Knight Rises. I was not a fan of Bane. I was even less of a fan for Anne Hathaway being Catwoman. I think Christopher Nolan wanting to make Batman and like Gotham and his universe a more realistic kind of vibe was really cool. And I don't think this current Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, would have kind of had the same flavor if Dark Knight trilogy hadn't come first. But that being said, here comes my first unpopular opinion. I like Matt Reeves' Batman more than Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Honestly, I think it's just because this new Batman feels a lot more dark, gritty, emotionally like damaged, like I don't know, the reality comes from how trauma affects Batman. I don't know, man, take that with what you will. I still think the Dark Knight trilogy were great movies. They worked well together and it was great. But now that this new one is out, like I can with confidence say that I prefer the new Batman over Christopher Nolan's version. And I'm obviously not including like the animated movies. I feel like they are kind of like on a caliber all their own, because I was one of the Batman fans that grew up watching the animated series, and that is kind of what fueled my love for Batman as a character. So that like dark, gloomy, doomy like vibe that the show gives off is absolutely what I was looking for in this new movie, and it didn't disappoint. So I'm going to stop talking about all that other stuff and start talking about why you clicked on this video. I'm now starting the spoiler-free portion of this video, and I'll let you know when I switch over to spoilers, but you know, I know the movie's been out for, you know, a little bit now, but, you know, I still want to be courteous because not everybody can make it to the movies like opening weekend or even like maybe the next weekend. A quick little synopsis from Letterboxd says, in his second year of fighting crime, Batman uncovers corruption in Gotham City that connects to his own family while facing a serial killer known as the Riddler. So let's talk about the detail that I think is going to probably get the most hate for this movie, and that is Robert Pattinson's portrayal as Bruce Wayne in Batman. I thought he did a beautiful job. It's, in my opinion, the first Batman movie that really outwardly showed the trauma of losing his parents and how, in like a realistic way, it can warp someone into a mental space where they care so little for themselves that they put themselves into danger. The emo vibe that Pattinson gave off wasn't for nothing and was a great choice for like a young Batman who's early into his career because he's only 2 years in. Paul Dano as the Riddler, I thought was a great choice. I've heard some criticism around like the riddles being super easy or that there weren't enough in the movie, but like from what we got and how he portrayed the character, I really feel as though it was a good mix of like psycho serial killer and like the riddles were there all throughout the movie. So I don't see how like there wasn't enough. Maybe like Batman spends a lot of time on some of them and maybe that kind of like alludes to the feeling of there not being a lot. And I could be wrong, but like just from my perspective, I thought that there was a good amount of riddles. I didn't know the answers to like a couple of them, so I guess I'm just an idiot. Selena Kyle in this movie, probably one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, but she was just herself. Like, it was kind of Catwoman's origin story. She was slowly becoming her. And if I'm remembering correctly, no one mentions the name Catwoman at all. She kind of references to her and Batman as the Cat in the Bat, but I don't think anybody ever says, like, Catwoman. And I thought Zoe Kravitz did like an outstanding performance as this character. She felt very gorgeous and sexy and dangerous, and I could believe that she straddled the line between like hero and possibly become like a villain. Like, it was just awesome. But I do want to go on record that Michelle Pfeiffer is still my favorite Catwoman. And then this portrayal was probably the one that shocked me the most, which was Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I had gone into this movie pretty blind. I'd only watched maybe 2 trailers. I didn't go looking up like interviews or anything. And the first time I watched it, it was at like a fan event at like the IMAX at AMC. And I got like a little exclusive comic that had like a variant cover for like the long Halloween. And before the movie started, there was just like a little snippet of like the whole cast like saying like, the general, hey, thanks for coming to see my movie or whatever. But like Colin Farrell was in the lineup and I was like, he's in this? Like, who is he? And when I saw that he was the Penguin, I was like, blew my mind. Like, whoever did like the prosthetics, the makeup, like they deserve all the awards. They need so much money. Like, it was insane. Like, he looked like a completely different person, and his voice, like the accent, his voice, it wasn't him. It wasn't Colin Farrell's voice, but I guess it was. So yeah, that was just like top-notch acting. I didn't know he was in it. Great job, Colin. You did something crazy. The overall aesthetic of Gotham and the locations visited within were really perfect to me. I like to call it like the Arkham filter, when the world of Gotham and the people in it match with how like dark and dirty they are. Seeing thugs and goons out in the wild in like subways and condemned buildings, as well as like huge venues, really made Gotham feel like a real place that real people lived in. Even having the big epic car scene from the first trailer include the extra obstacle of traffic made the city feel full and crowded and like a living, breathing system and not just like a barren movie set. But all in all, this movie was beautiful. I loved Robert Pattinson. I loved the chemistry between him and Zoe Kravitz. Like, it was believable. Paul Dano as the Riddler was great. Colin Farrell still blows my mind. And Gotham felt like, the city itself felt like a character. And I feel like that is kind of rare. And as if I need to say it, this movie gets 5 out of 5 stars. And I recommend it to anybody who just wants like a good action film with a little dark, broody, emo side. Okay. We are now in spoiler territory. If you haven't seen it yet and you don't want any spoilers, please go watch it. Come back and watch the rest of my review, please. But this has been your warning, and I'm going to move forward with the things that are spoilery. The little intro that was narrated by Bruce, saying things like, I am the shadows, and he like references himself as like, I am vengeance. That just gives me the intro to the Batman animated series, which he says, I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman. Like, that little detail, and I know it was in the trailer, and that's kind of what built some hype for me. Like, this whole movie just touched like a nostalgia spot in my heart. And I loved, like, the music, like, oh my god, the music itself was fucking phenomenal, but the song chosen to play, like, underneath his narration, there's, like, a swell, like a build, like a creepy horror, like I just felt like that really sold what he's trying to portray with the narration, which is like, I'm fear, I lurk in the shadows, and you get the idea that like the criminals are afraid of him without even knowing if he's actually there, that they think that he is hiding in the literal shadows, that he could be a supernatural being. And it was just awesome. It was a really cool detail, and I loved the intro narration. And then I don't know if you would classify this as a spoiler, but like there were details about this movie that just felt like they came from the Arkham video games. The contact lens gadget having a way to be tuned and stuff, and like Batman turning a knob back at his Batcave to clear and find like a signal, felt like the times Batman would have to pull out his cryptographic sequencer, little thing he'd pull out and like twist the knobs to adjust the signal. And at the end, when he kicked all the Riddler's like goons' asses and they were dangling off the platform, that just really felt like the part in the games like during stealth missions where you would like jump from gargoyle to gargoyle and you could do like the inverted takedown and they would like be hanging. It felt like they took some details from the games. Even like how Batman was fighting in a lot of the scenes, the car chase scene with the Batmobile, how it moved really quick and like how he was like controlling it. It felt very much like I was watching scenes from like the video game. I don't know. It gave me that vibe and I wanted to put it in the video. Okay, time to talk about the eye makeup thing. If you've already seen the movie or if you've been on the internet and been reading or hearing reviews, a common little like tiff people are having is that the eye makeup under the cowl being all smeared and runny is like an unneeded or unnecessary detail, and it just like adds to making Rob Pattinson look super emo. And I just want to like put some photos on the screen right here, right now. He's not the only Batman who's had the black grease paint around his eyes. You know, if you were out like kicking ass, taking names, getting all sweaty and hot in like thick black armor out on the streets, your makeup's gonna run too, okay? I just feel like keeping it in or like kind of showing that detail. Hello. Oh my gosh. It was just a realistic detail, man. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't get too hung up on it. There were tons and tons of Easter eggs, but the two that I wanted to talk about, the mention of Bloodhaven at the end, that's like where Nightwing kind of oversees the city. I feel like with Bruce Wayne or this Batman being like only 2 years into his career and still being like a fairly young man, Nightwing probably wouldn't come unless they do like a huge time jump for like sequels. But the fact that they mentioned Bloodhaven was really cool, and it made me like, ooh, Nightwing. And if you don't know, Nightwing is actually my favorite comic book superhero of all time. Batman is second. I love Batman with all of my heart, so imagine how much I love Nightwing if Batman is second. The other little Easter egg was the green goopy shit in the syringe that he like injects himself with towards the end, and it makes him go beast mode. Wonder what that could be. I wonder what that is. I don't know. I really don't know, but it just kind of gave me the vibe of like Bane's venom. I don't know. It just kind of gave me those vibes. Okay. This is a big detail I've been wanting to share, so just hold on to your butts. Here we go. I really, really loved the very prominent similarities between like the Riddler and Batman, like the fact that they both wrote out like maps on the floor of their homes. Batman's was like a map of like how everything going on was tied to each other together, and Riddler's was a map of Gotham and the lights signifying like the future bombs going off, like the little vans that were placed all around the city. The fact that they both were journaling to empty their minds into notebooks, hiding their identities under masks, which is like an obvious one. It was just an awesome way to represent like the difference between going through trauma as a child with money versus like living in poverty. They're essentially the same, but one grew up in the actual shadows of the city and turned into a crazed psychopathic murderer, and the other justifies his vigilante actions by craving vengeance and having the money to do it, you know? He didn't grow up envious of money, so when the Riddler, you know, he targeted the most powerful and rich people in Gotham. That's like what this whole movie's about. These details are some of my favorites because in past movies they might like verbally compare Batman to his villains and how he's like not so different, but this film actually shows you consistently through to the end how he's different, basically just because he's rich. And after some time passes, I think even he realizes his own privilege, and wealth is like both obvious and it's obviously like an aid in what he's doing, but also it holds him back. Like at the end, when it's revealed that Batman didn't tie the first clue of the carpet tucker in Riddler's apartment because he's not familiar with normal 9-to-5 jobs like, someone who installs carpet. And because of that, he didn't know that the Riddler's Gotham map thing was hiding under the carpet the whole time. And there was like a password that unlocked the encrypted video on Riddler's laptop that explained the final attack with the bombs. And Batman technically loses against the Riddler, and he has to be there to pick up the pieces of the destruction caused by him. And no doubt he was feeling guilty about it and not being able to catch it in time or stop it. That the past 2 years he had been selfishly seeking out vengeance for his parents' death. He dressed up his reasoning all nice, saying it was continuing his parents' legacy, but as soon as he realized that angry people can literally do what he's doing, which is disguising themselves and going after targets that they don't agree with, something clicks, and he then sees that it's the only way he can change the city is to protect the people in it and not just going after those who seek to destroy it or take it over. It's the moment that the 2 years in, young Batman kind of turns over a new leaf. He's maturing. And then the last little scene, the one where he's leading people of Gotham in the flood out of the waters with a flare. It's a top-down shot. It's beautiful. If I can find it on the internet, I'll include it here on the screen. But not only was that a beautiful to look at scene in the movie, it was also kind of a representation. It was heavy with symbolism. That it was the moment that the people of Gotham stopped viewing him as a vigilante menace to the city and started to view him as, the potential of hope for the city. And I've heard some people say that Batman isn't a symbol of hope and that heroes like Superman are, and that Batman is fear and fear only. But I'd argue that superheroes in general are symbols of hope for both the fictional characters in their books and to the real life people who read them and love their characters. I think if something makes you feel like lifting your head and following the light out of a dangerous or stagnant situation in your real life, no one can tell you that that's not hopefulness. Ultimately, if you couldn't tell by me giving it 5 out of 5 stars and talking so positively about it now, I really loved this movie. It impacted me. I turn to Batman media a lot for whenever I'm going through hard points in my life. And I can, recognize that, my love for this current movie could be very biased just because of how I am. And I was really hesitant bringing my opinion on this movie to this platform. I am kind of afraid of gatekeeping people in the comic book community being mean. But that's the risk you take by putting yourself on the internet. If you agree with the things I said, if you liked the movie, comment below. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. If you thought this video was really dumb, just click out and go find something else to watch, There's so many videos on this app. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for dedicating this amount of time to listening to some random chick on the internet talk about Robert Pattinson's Batman. I can't guarantee that I'll have a very consistent schedule for uploading again. Life is still pretty crazy for just personal and work. Fingers crossed I'll be able to make another video in the future, but if not, I just wanted to get my Batman love out there. Ending videos is difficult, so I'm just gonna say goodbye, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!